last month we talked about how to run your business. The first month was, how to create business. The second one was how to run your business. And this one is going to be kind of how to achieve greatness in your business. So it's kind of a big, broad topic. This will be a shorter training. So I really encourage you guys to ask questions. If you have things you want to throw as input, please do it, okay? I'm dying up here, so I need some help, okay? That's basically what I'm saying. But anyway, so success leaves clues. And today is just kind of a compilation of through the years of what I've seen from other agents, from books I've read, from things I've heard, and in my own experiences too. And so we're going to bring these together, and this is kind of a living work in progress. I've talked about this before. I might do this sometime down the road. So if there's things that you think really are signs of greatness in agents, let me know. We'll add it to the presentation if we do this a couple of years down the road. So anyway, so 3 things that all agents have in common. Now, this is from an older study done in the late 90s by Terry Eilers. Terry Eilers was a sales trainer, but not in real estate, in many different organizations. National sales trainer, really well known, wrote a lot of books on sales. And he decided that at some point in his career, he wanted to kind of find out what people had in common, okay? And so he did this amazing study of 1,000 individuals, long-term studies, and actually interviewed each and every one of them. And he came up with 3 things that 97% of them had in common. Now, there are other things that a lot of them had in common, maybe 40 or 50% of them did, but 3 things. He was able to unpack 3 things that were kind of the magical things. And they're not necessarily magical, but they are pretty important, obviously. So what do you think they might be? 3 things that all top salespeople have in common.
Good one, Steve. Say it louder.
Come on. What?
Storyteller, he said.
Okay.
Tell stories.
Okay. Anything else?
Tenacity. Persistence. Communication.
Communication.
Hustle.
Okay. All those things can be true. Now let me tell you. Now, first of all, Steve knows the answer because he's heard me talk about this
That's why I
before.
didn't want to say it out loud.
So 3 things they found in common. Okay. They're always on time. Okay. Always on time. So if you're not always on time, you're only 3% chance you have a chance of being a top salesperson. That's the truth of it. The next one is they have a daily list. So obviously, if you don't have a list, that is your map. Can you imagine taking, somebody taking off in an airplane, a pilot, without a map to get there? Well, that's what we do without a daily list. And the last thing was, and this was the interesting one. The others were obvious, on time, daily list. But the third one, they communicate by telling stories. So when I heard this study years ago, the first thing I wanted to do, and I actually had done a lot of this, previously, but I even kind of ramped it up a little bit. I use stories to communicate to my clients. So in other words, if you have a situation with your clients, then that might be a certain situation, but you had that situation before, use that story, okay, to kind of convey messages that you want to convey to them, okay? So again, 3 things. I think that's a good place to start with this. And that kind of kicks this off. The next thing I want to talk about is turning problems into opportunities. Now, I know that, when I used to get a call and I have a complaint or a problem or something within an escrow or something, you never liked the call. It was kind of like, oh no. And then I heard someone tell me one time that you have to quit giving yourself that negative self-talk when you get that, and you have to turn that around. What you have to say is, with every problem comes an opportunity. What is the opportunity within this problem? And so when I started looking at that, and so a client would call me and say, by the way, we moved in, and you know how they were supposed to fix that leak, they didn't do it. Okay, well, instead of saying, oh my gosh, this deal is done, I was hoping to put it to bed, look at this as the opportunity to take care of this, impress your client, go above and beyond. And that type of thinking, I really think catapulted me to another level, because I no longer looked at problems as problems, but as opportunities. Now, are all problems solvable?
No, kind of.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, okay? Not all problems are solvable. I do have a saying, and this is just kind of, a saying that I heard along the way. Almost everything is figure-outable, Okay.
That's it.
Almost everything. But some things are not, and if they're not, they're not. But that doesn't mean there's not an opportunity. So even with with a problem where you cannot fix it, there's still the opportunity. And look at that opportunity as being, imagine how you might work with a problem. I know that a lot of top agents in here can tell a story, okay, that how they helped an agent, they helped a client with a problem, and later that client referred them. Or it might have been a problem they fixed and it wasn't their client, that they fixed this problem for the transaction, and this client came back to use them instead of the other agent. That's even a better story. And we have a lot of those stories as well. So again, problems become opportunities. So the next thing is I want to kind of talk about one of the keys to greatness. A lot of people think in real estate, especially new people, but a lot of people, period, that the key to greatness is marketing. Okay, now I agree marketing is important. I totally agree with that. Social media, all that, we're big on that, we're huge on that. But that is not the key. That is not the key. The key to most people's success in real estate comes down to two words. What is it?
Lead generation.
Lead generation. So when we put our focus on marketing and we spend, maybe 10 hours a week on marketing and 2 hours a week on lead generation or prospecting, that's where we fall short. You've got to use that marketing, and marketing is something, especially as you start to do better in business, that you can hire out, have a lot of that done for you. It makes you look good, but it's done for you, and then you're there to do lead generation. So, and again, whether you call it lead generation or prospecting, it's still the same thing. So what do you think NAR says that we should spend every week on prospecting? How many hours? 10? 10? 40? Okay, NAR says 30. Now,
Dang.
I disagree. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying NAR is wrong. They're a lot bigger than I am. But if you spend 30 hours a week prospecting, you will kill yourself. But if you spend 10 to 20 hours a week prospecting, maybe 20 to start with, 10 to 20 to start with, and then once you arrive at a higher level, 10 every week, you're not going to kill yourself, and you're going to do really, really well. So again, I disagree with 30, but for the people that think that you don't have to spend any time at all prospecting, you can just market, you're probably not going to be successful. So that's a key there. So Angie and I were at a seminar a couple of years ago, Inman Conference in San Francisco. And when you go to a conference like this, you're really hoping to pick up a couple good things. I picked up a few good things from that conference. Most of them was from Bo, okay, because he spoke at that, and that's where we first met Bo. But there's a couple other things we picked up. It wasn't like the whole every day I just loaded with all these gems. But I remember one guy was talking about that reading is important, and I really agree with that. Our entire family are readers. Angie, Casey, Corey, and I, we all read a lot. Casey, my oldest son, probably reads a book a week. I read a book a month. Angie probably listens to 2 books a month on tape. But we're all book readers. But one of the things he said was, that I thought was really good, he said, it's not only important to read books, what's more important is to reread great books. And I'll tell you what, that 1 minute he gave me on that made me turn around and start saying, instead of reading 1 book every month, new book, I'm going to read 1 book every month, but one's going to be a reread, okay, and 1 book is going to be a new book. Because honestly, 90% of the books I read, I might take just a little bit from. They're not life-changing, but there are books in your life that might be life-changing. And so I want to continue to reread books that are life-changing, that I can go back and read what was most important to me. And by the way, I've never reread a book that I didn't get something else out of. So in your life, when you get the books that are amazing books, just don't read, reread. So, question, I want you guys to come on, open up and share on this. What's a great book, Jim?
What's your life-changing book?
Because I got a few of them. Good to Great, Jim Collins is a great book. I think it's amazing. Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, great book. Unleash the Giant Within, Tony Robbins, an older book, but I think it was good. I tell you the one that, the two probably most I would say, I'd probably say is Happiness Advantage by Sean Akers.
Yeah, you refer to that.
I've referred to that many times. Remember last week when I said, if you want to be a happy person, we need to all lower our expectations about others. Number one reason. I got that from Happiness Advantage and many other things. Sean Akers, by the way, was a professor at Harvard for years. To get in his class, you had to sign up usually as senior status because it went out immediately and you had to have priority signups to get his class. He taught 2 classes a year, one each semester, about 300 people, and it was that hard to get into it. But it was called The Happiness Advantage. He talked about how to become happiness, and his book was a bestseller for years. I think it's really great. You need to read Happiness Advantage. Now, he also has a book, which is a good book, not a great book, called Before the Happiness Advantage. And I think it's pretty good. It's kind of like The Good to Great. There's Jim Collins also wrote a book called Built to Last, which was his first book, which is also a good book. But Good to Great, I think, is a good book. And then one of the best books of all time,
I was gonna say, I knew that was what you'd say.
But
How to
it-
Win Friends and Influence People. Can't
Yeah,
go
I
under
mean,
that
I
one.
think it was written in 1927 or something by Dale Carnegie. It's still simple, and truthfully, the people that do well in real estate today are the people that create relationships just like Dale Carnegie talked about in 1927. And it's pretty simple, but it's really so good. Richest Man in Babylon is another great book. What are some great books you guys have?
Compound effect.
Compound
Compound
Effect,
Effect,
okay.
Yeah, that's good. No, I said that's good.
No, I know. No one else has a great book. So those are just some of the ones. One of the books for me personally, this is just as a man of faith, Case for Christ, Lee Strobel was an amazing book. I've read it 3 times.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah, it's the movie nowhere near as good as the book.
I like
So-
the purpose-driven life.
Purpose-driven life. Yeah, I mean that only sold what?
Not many.
100 million. So
The
that's a
Bible.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 66 good books in the Bible. There you go. So anyway, so read books and reread, and when you do that, I'd be surprised if there weren't some things that kind of, even though that book may have been a life changer to start with, it became a life changer again to you. Maybe in the same way, maybe it was just a review, but maybe in some ways you found out something else in that book. So, okay, so next thing I want to talk about is 2 things that we all need to be good at. This sounds kind of basic in a way, and some of this is basic. You know, greatness isn't all about, you know, these amazing things sometimes. And so the first thing we do with people on our team when they come in is we say, you need to be great at 2 presentations. Okay, what are they, guys? Yeah, seller's presentations, buyer's presentation. You need to get great at those, okay? You need to get great because when you do, that's going to be your future business. Now, we not only talk about doing it, and you know, some of the new agents that are in here right now, Joseph has just been, you know, practicing his back to us. And we ask them to practice back on us because we don't want them practicing on clients. Come to us, okay? That's one of our commitments we make as a team, is we don't practice on clients. And so they practice on Angie and I, okay? And they'll give the presentations. And then when they go in front of a live presentation, then they're ready to go. And by the way, we're tougher than any client. So that also kind of gives them that ability to overcome the nerves. So, and I asked this question before, but when you go into a presentation, and let's say it's a listing presentation for a $1.5 million house, a little 1-bedroom condo. So when you go in for that listing presentation, now you can look at that and say, well, that commission is probably about $30,000 or something, let's say, $35,000. So what's at stake? What's at stake when you go in there to get that listing or not get that listing? What would you say? The commission is going to be, say, $35,000. What's at stake?
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, because you're not looking to get one client. You're looking to get that client and that client's future business and everybody that client can tell you about. And so that's the reason why it's so important to have both these presentations just absolutely nailed before you start them. And I really think it's good. Like, we'll even sometimes during the presentation, I'll start fidgeting or something like that, or I'll start asking tough questions, or I'll kind of act disinterested and stuff like that, because I want them to be able to overcome objections that they might get. Then when they go to this actual presentation, they say, oh man, that was so easy. That's the way it needs to be. And by the way, no matter how many listing presentations you've done, or buyer presentations, you need to always assess what you've done afterwards, whether you get it or not. Do not look at success as based if you got it or you didn't. Look at every one that there's things to learn from this that I can do better next time. Now, Angie and I used to do a lot of our presentations together, especially the seller presentations, listings. Buyers not as often, I usually did those. But when we do those together, then afterwards we can go back and say, well, you know, we probably should have said this, or could have done this, or we could have been clear on this, things like that. So it's the idea that, you know, we're always trying to improve it as well. So anyway, again, don't practice on our clients. So next thing I want to talk about is dressing for success. And this sounds like such a kind of boring, you know, subject to talk about. And to some degree it really is. My dad told me one time, a long time ago, my kids all know this saying, that you should never judge anybody by how they look or how they dress, but understand you will be judged by how you look and how you dress. Okay? And that's really the way you need to look at that. And you should never judge anyone that way, but understand you're going to be judged. So if we're going to be judged by how we look and how we dress, then let's dress up. Now, you notice I'm not really dressed for you guys. I'm in jeans and a shirt. I'm really not here trying to get any business, okay? But when I was in business, Angie knows, Jim knows, all the people that knew me way back when, Steve, I never came to work without a shirt and tie on. Never came to work without a shirt and tie. So that's just the way we did it. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, and times have changed a little bit, no question about it, especially if you see agents like at the beach and things like that. But I will tell you, I've never seen anyone lose a listing because they overdress, but I have seen people lose listings or business because they underdress. So there was a good study done a few years ago, actually like 2 years ago. It's called The Correlation Between Dressing for Success and Achieving Success. So Michael W. Cross, he's the assistant professor of organizational behavior at the Yale School of Management. He co-wrote the study. He and his team divided 128 men, ages 18 to 32, into 3 different groups and had them run through mock negotiations. The first group was asked to dress in a business attire, suits, dress shoes, and ties and so on. The second group was the Mark Zuckerberg group, right? Which was wearing sweatpants and flip-flops. The third group remained neutral, dressing in the clothes they arrived in, just how they arrived. So the study used a popular role-playing exercise in which the negotiators were each given a fair market proposition to sell a hypothetical factory, okay? Long story short, the men wearing business suits only moved off their initial offer by an average of $830,000. The men sporting flip-flops moved off their deals by an average of $2.81 million, while the neutrally styled men moved off their price by $1.58 million. Conclusion of the study. The study concluded that when individuals, in this case men, wear nicer clothes with higher social status, there's an increase in the levels of dominance in job performance. So part of the preparation to going to important appointments is dressing for it. And again, once you dress in it, I think that's part of who you become. So we've talked about the emotional part of real estate, how we prepare ourselves every day to kind of go to to battle. I don't mean battle in a good way, battle in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. Well, it's the same thing. It's kind of preparing ourselves. So if you want to increase your confidence, then dress professionally. It's that simple. So, and I know it's a different time. We can kind of negotiate that in here, whether or not you have to do that or not. I still think it counts. I still think it matters. So.
Nobody wears hosiery anymore.
Huh?
That's since 1980.
Yeah, there's no. I was some of the internet.
I don't want to remove that last one.
Yeah. It's good enough for you guys.
Put tights.
No way.
I don't know. In the
I have
winter.
tights on today.
Yeah,
But
tights in the
I'm
winter.
home.
So next thing we talk about, if you want to know how to sell, we use this kind of proposition. Understand how you and others like to buy. So reverse engineer all your business. Don't set up your business like how I can get somebody to do this or trick them into doing this, or how I can possibly get a seller to sell that doesn't want to sell, or a buyer to buy that doesn't want to buy. Don't engineer any of your business that way. Engineer your business as if you were the buyer, and then engineer how you want to be treated. That's the way that you achieve greatness in that area. And I think it's really important. So like, for instance, when Bo talks about his open houses, okay, he talks about all the things he does. And when he does that, I honestly think that Bo, whether he did it, knew he was doing it or not, was kind of thinking, this is what I want in somebody. I want somebody who's going to get to the point, who's going to be there and fight for me, and who's not going to have a lot of small talk. I'm there. If I'm interested in looking at that house, I want somebody who's going to talk real estate, not small talk. That's probably how he did it. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't engineer something to do small talk if that's how you would like to buy, but understand then you would appeal to people that like to buy that way. So everything you do, whether you geographic farm, whether you social market, whether you do open houses as your business or whatever it is, and it's certainly how you would do your sphere of influence, everybody should be working that. That's everyone's number one source of business, sphere of influence. You may do something else, but you should always do that as well. And engineer it with that idea in mind. Now, I had an agent one time, Michaela asked me, when I told her, you need to get out there and start doing some pop-bys. She goes, I don't like doing pop-bys. And I said, well, they're just important to do. She goes, well, let me ask you this. If I were to pop by your home, or an agent, would you like that? And I said, no, not really. But I give them business. I'd respect it. Now, do I really want people coming by my house and dropping little gifts off that I don't need? Well, it might be okay. But I can tell you this, I give them business because we've got a driver that takes us to the airport and stuff, Zoli.
Yes,
okay.
Zoli.
And guess how many people here use Zoli now? Probably half the group because, because
tell her.
I've referred Zoli. Zoli doesn't make a lot of money on us. He drives us to the airport, okay? There's not a lot of money in that. And yet, every year, he drops off a box of candy.
Oh,
Every
so
Christmas,
cute.
a box of candy on my porch. And that's a big deal. Now, do I really like the candy? Actually, I kind of do. But, but if it was some gift I didn't like, and even he came to the door, first of all, you never be intrusive. You're always quick. But I may not like that, but I give them business. It's kind of like when people door knock in farms. It's kind of like, would I want somebody door knocking in my farm? No. But might I respect that and give them business? Absolutely. Because I see somebody working hard. So again, want to know how to sell, understand how you and others like to buy. So this is I like this. The one question you should ask every client. Now, what is that? No one from my team, I know you guys all know this. Anybody else want to take a guess? One question you should, I won't make you look stupid if you don't hit my question right on. One question you should ask every client.
For their business.
What?
Ask them for their business.
Yeah, okay. You're going to actually be a lead into my next question. Remember that answer for the next question. I never did this during my sales years. And then I was working with Sammy on our team like maybe 6-7 years ago, and she was actually doing her presentation, her buyer presentation to us, and she started off the presentation with one simple question. What are you looking for in an agent? And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a question. I've done all these presentations over the years. I've asked all these questions, and the best one of all I left out of my presentation every single time. It's the best question. And I'll tell you why. It's kind of like, you guys have probably, most of you have read the book on love languages by Gary Chapman. And so it's really important to connect with your spouse or your kids or your friends in their love language, right? So if you're going to connect in their love language, then ask them what it is. This is just asking what their love language is from a business point of view. What are you looking for in an agent? Now, if you start that question at the beginning of a presentation, you have that entire presentation to weave that in the presentation to make sure that everything they just said is covered. Okay? Now, and by the way, that is one of the questions that clients, answer pretty honestly. One of the questions they don't answer honestly. Anyone know what they don't never answer honestly? Why they didn't pick you. They never honest. So, you can always ask them why they didn't pick you, and they're always going to say, well, you were really good, but, my wife wanted to use the other person, or, we committed to them before. Or, listen, if you don't get it, just look at it this way. They just thought they were better. Just go with that, okay? Because when you ask them, the only reason we ask them sometime is because we just want to feel a little bit better about how come we didn't get it. But the truth of it is, just accept it. I need to step it up, Or maybe I didn't connect with that person. You can't connect with everybody. So that's the most important question. I think it's a really good one to ask. And then make sure that all through your dealings with them, from that point on, you weave that through, whatever it is. So, Karen, if I were to ask you, what are you looking for in an agent? What would you say?
Someone to go negotiate on my behalf.
Okay. So, it sounds like to me that you want somebody who's going to be a strong agent and stand up for you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, guess what I'm going to weave in there? I'm going to weave in that I'm here for you. We're going to talk about a slide, a couple of slides from now. It's going to go perfectly right into that. Okay. So, again, great question to ask. So, next one. What's one statement you should make to every client? Veronica?
What did Veronica say? Yeah.
Ask for the business.
Yeah, so ask for the business, but I think I like to switch it just a little bit. Thank them for the business and let them know how important the business is. So we had a listing presentation at a farm years ago over in Montellano, and I had not met this seller before. Angie and I had not. They only moved in about a year ago, but they were getting another job transfer and met with us and the other farmer who was farming against us at the time. And we both had presentations. We had the second presentation. We gave the presentation. At the very end, they decided to go with us. And I asked them, I said, you know, we really appreciate your business, and I really thank you, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And I said, why did you decide to go with us? And they said, just one reason only. I felt like you would appreciate the business. Really? I thought like we weren't a better listing presentation. We didn't have more going. We haven't sold more homes in here. No, you appreciated my business more. And so guess what? Never after that did I ever not tell somebody how much I appreciate their business. And isn't it a nice touch when somebody does that? And no matter what you're buying from somebody, just nice to say, hey, thank you for doing business with us. It's an art which is long gone, it seems like. But I think it's well done. So you learn from these things, and that's something I learned a long time ago. So, okay, next question. Is it good to be available 24/7 to your clients?
No.
Really?
Well,
Other
yeah,
agents
my
might be.
clients think that it
Are
is,
you not
yeah.
going to be? Then I'll go to somebody who is, right? Okay, that is what I get all the time from new agents. If I'm not there, somebody else will be. Well, I understand that. That's an argument. It's just not a good one. The truth of it is the people that you respect in your life, if you have an accountant, an attorney, you know, people that are high-level professionals, if you have a doctor, you know, I just had an MRI. I don't expect my doctor to be on call if I call him 11 o'clock tonight. If he picked up the phone and said, hey, what's up? I just, I know you called me. I wanted to, answer your call. I go, really? Are you that desperate? I mean, so we can't be there 24/7. Set up parameters of when you're going to take calls. I know we call Will. I always love when I call Will. He says, I return calls between 5 and 6 every day, right? Something like that. He lays it out of when you can expect return calls. And that's great. And he returns calls. Guess what? He usually returns them earlier, okay? But he lays out that he's not going to be there every second for you. And we're not really setting ourselves up to be professionals when we're there every second. Now, I like to make an exception during an offer period. If we're working on an offer, sometimes you have to stay up very late at night, okay? And you have to be on call. And you have to take a call at 11 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning. Those things happen with offers, okay? But that's about the only time that our life really operates like an emergency room. The rest of our real estate life does not. Just, showing property or listing a house or, doing the different things, trying to get the loan approved. These things don't really take places in seconds or minutes. They take places in days and weeks. So we don't need to be that available. And here's the biggest problem you'll have with being available 24/7 is burnout. You will burn out. And it's kind of like if you did 30 hours a week of prospecting for 10 years, 30 hours every week for 10 years, I couldn't imagine there'd be anything left of you. I mean, that's the way I think. Maybe you're stronger than I am. It's the same thing here. You need to leave some energy for yourself. You need to have some downtime because that downtime gets you prepared for the next day. Okay, so NAR did a study years ago, and they do a lot of studies. And what they did was they actually took buyers and sellers, and there was a few, I believe 500 of each. And after they closed escrows, they put them together and they asked them what they wanted from an agent, the 3 most important things they want from their agents. And I thought it was pretty interesting. One of them I thought was totally, everyone would probably guess it. The other 2, maybe not, okay? But if this is what people want from their agents, then we need to provide these things. So, not my team, I know you guys know. So what do you think they were? Any ideas? What the clients want from their agents? Ines, I'll let you do this. I know you know this. Give me one of them.
Pick on someone else.
Okay. Okay. Number 1, okay, go ahead.
Well, net sheets.
Yeah, they want net sheets. Now, by the way, I've sold a whole lot of homes before where I was the listing agent and never did a net sheet. Now, you don't do net sheets for buyers, lenders do that. But for the sellers, as agents, we need to do net sheets. I've taught classes on that. I've put together net sheets for you guys. So those are things that a lot of times I would sell a house. If they didn't ask me, I didn't do a net sheet. But guess what? Once I heard this, I always did net sheets. Because guess what? It's what they want. And yet, when I think of this, how basic this is, that we would sell a house, get a signature on the final counteroffer, and put it in escrow and never tell the seller how much it's going to cost them, I can see why they'd look at us and say, you're not doing your job. Okay, I can see why it's one of the most important things. So net sheets. And when you do net sheets, you know, any agent who's been in the business for a while, that net sheet better give them at least that much or more at the close, because if it's that much or less, you're not going to look very good. So you've got to, you know, build in some margins on that. But again, net sheets. Another one was communication. But not only communication, but they wanted to be communicated consistently, in detail, accurately, in the form they want. That was the thing that was interesting. Because, you know, we all have a preferred method. I'm a phone guy. People on our team know. Don't text me. Just pick up the phone, call me. If I can answer it, I will. If not, don't. If I'm in a meeting or something, I'll have to, maybe text is great, but feel free to call me. I'm a call guy. I'm not a big email guy. Don't send me a thread of emails and say, what do you think about this? I'll say, I think it's a thread of emails. What do you think? So, but I like to call. That's kind of my preferred method. Texts I like too. Emails I'm not big on unless it's just real quick. If it is, then you can text. But everybody has their preferred method. The younger you are, the more you might like to do text. By the way, anytime I call my sons, I can never leave them a message because their phone is full. Okay, I mean they purposely set it up that way so nobody can leave them a message. They're both in business and people call them, but it's like that's the way it is. You won't get me on that, which is okay. I mean, there might be an older client that you might lose sometimes if you do that, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. So, but not only communicate often, okay, communicate in their preferred method, and the other thing is, I always like to give them 3 steps ahead. That's kind of my rule of client, 3 steps ahead. So, as soon as the offer, you're with a seller and you maybe make a counter offer, maybe in this market, a multiple counter to 27 buyers, okay? When you do that, you say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We have until, you know, 5 o'clock tomorrow to receive any other offers or more response to this counter offer. Let's set up a time to meet. At that time, then we can go over which we think is the best and select that. And then from that, we'll accept that offer and open escrow the next day. You know, kind of 3 steps ahead. Don't give them 10 steps ahead. That's too far, okay? Look at this as you're kind of like a miner in a mine, okay? When you're walking through a mine, they have that little light on there, right? And all you see is kind of where you're at, not around the corner. That's what your clients want. They don't want around the corner what's going to happen in 2 weeks from now. They just want to know what's going to happen the next 3 things. What do I have to do today, tomorrow, and maybe this week? So update them on that, okay? Very important. Last thing was, and this is a really important one, is they want options. So believe it or not, our clients really care about what we think, but they don't care about what we think until they get all the options. So in other words, if Steve was my client and I said, you know, this property is listed at $1.1 million. If we want to have any chance, we probably need to go in at $1.3 million. So, and I just told you that's not what they want. What they want is, okay, Steve, you like this property, let's talk about the offer. Now we can go in at $1.1 million, the likelihood that we'll even receive a counter is near zero.
How much do you like the property on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, no, I'm gonna just
Oh,
go with
sorry.
this first.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
it's not about the offer, it's about options.
Yeah.
So the question is how much, so the first option was, I said, we could go in at full price. The chance we're gonna get the offer accepted is almost zero. The other thing we do is we can go in and go really stupid. We go in at $1.6 million, we'll probably get it. Actually, maybe get it. But have a better chance of getting it, okay? Or if you want to, we could go in like 150,000 above. That gives us a good chance, but at least we're probably in the game. And if we don't get it, there's a good chance we'll get a counter, okay? So, but what they don't want to do is don't go directly to what your advice is. Give them all the options, and then they'll usually ask you for your advice. And if they don't, then generally give it to them. That's what they want. When, when I go in and hear from my doctor, hopefully when I get out of this meeting, he's gonna say, I don't want him to say, well, okay, you need surgery, let's get together. I want him to look at that and say, well, you got a couple options. You can try to do physical therapy on that. It'll probably heal somewhat, but not completely. Or you can just do nothing, of which case you can do that, but it's probably gonna give out on you again. Or you could have surgery, which is gonna be a long, arduous process, but it'll come back 100%. So he gives me all the options. Now he has the right to say, well, what would you do, doctor? Well, if you want to be you play 4 hours of pickleball 4 days a week, and you want to do that for the rest of your life, I suggest you get surgery. So I'm already in my mind playing what he's going to tell me. But the whole idea of this is they don't just want your opinion. You can't give it without all the options. Once you give all the options, then they want your opinion. I think that's really important. So, okay, so I love what Bo has to say. By the way, this is Bo's amazing wife, Katie. Okay, and one of the great things about I think Regency and the ability that we share among each other so freely is that we all get to get better by what everybody else does. And Bo had said something in a training a couple weeks ago that I thought was so good, I want to say it again. Okay, so what I'll probably do is this time I kind of gave Bo the credit for saying it. Next time I say it, I'm going to take the credit for saying it. Okay? But this time I'm going to give Bo the credit. So he talks about to his clients, and just imagine yourself as a client, and Bo talking to you and saying, I have 3 objectives with you as my client: to make you money, to save you money, and to protect you. Now, when you get those words, those are powerful. Now, they might be Bo's words, but isn't that what you'd want to do? Doesn't that really say it better than maybe I've ever said it before? And if you have a better way to say it, then let me know what it is. But I think that's an important thing to say. And if you can say it, mean it with conviction, then, because I can tell you that people look for different things. Some people focus on the money they can save, some on the money they can make, and some on just being protected. Just being protected. I had a call today with one of Kasha's clients. Kasha is a new agent, only been in business a couple months. She's closing her first escrow tomorrow, $120,000 commission, great job. And the buyer, all cash buyer, everything's good, says, I just want to know how I could be assured that I saw there's a lien on the prelim. How can I be assured that the escrow company's going to pay that off? So I just had to explain what title insurance was and the title company's role in this. That's all I had to do. And once I explained it to him, then he was fine. But so for him, being protected was really important, right? So again, those are 3 important things. If you've got something else you want to add to that, then that's great too. Does anyone have a statement they say to every client? They make sure that they don't go without saying this to a client? Okay, so.
I know someone that does.
What?
Always there to help.
Yeah. I love it. It's always there to help. So there you go. That kind of be your byline. So.
I don't
Good.
think I've ever seen Bo out of a suit.
Me too.
I was like, that's Bo.
That's Bo's wife. I just went to Facebook.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's Katie. She's a sweetheart. So, okay. So you must step out of your comfort zone, and here's the thing. It's kind of like some people say step out of the box, and some people say step out of the comfort zone. I remember we were talking to our oldest son when he was like 8 years old, and we're doing a science project. Angie might remember this. And Angie was talking to me. He goes, well, Casey, I think you ought to, to do this science project, just step out of the box.
Think outside the box.
or think outside the box on this. And he said, and what did he say?
Because why would there need to be a box? Like, why do you have to think outside the box? Why would there be a box?
Yeah,
Like,
why
just
is there a box?
Think wild.
Why is there a box? And I thought that was really good. But the comfort zone thing, here's the truth of it. You know, in life, we literally expand our comfort zone as we step out of it. Because each time we step out of it, then we expand it a little bit more. Karen, you're a person that I can tell you, knowing you very well as a good friend for many years, she has stepped out of her comfort zone so many times. And have you ever regretted it?
No.
I mean, was it ever easy? No, but her comfort zone's this big now. But her comfort zone probably used to be like that, right? And you just kept stepping out and stepping out and stepping out. Remember the first year that she was chairman of our company, she came to me and she goes, I've never told anyone this. I've never been elected to anything in my whole life.
That was a secret, Ed.
Well, since then she's been elected, she's running the world now. But this was 25 years ago.
Hey,
But-
Regency wouldn't be here if we didn't think outside the box
Yeah.
and go out of our comfort zone.
No, absolutely. So think outside the box. And what I really mean this for the most is when there's things that's hard to do. The hardest door to knock on is the first one. Okay? And we have these ideas that it's gonna go really bad, but don't worry about it. Just step out of your comfort zone. I've never regretted it. I mean, I've done stupid things in my life. Angie can tell you about. I went back to play college football at age 33. If that's not stupid, I don't know what is. I'm surely glad I did it. So, okay. Must be a good time manager to achieve greatness. Now, I've got a whole seminar in time management. I think time management is so important. If you want to achieve, you know, not only greatness but success in your business, you've got to expand that clock. You've got to be able to do more in a shorter amount of time. So I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but there's a couple key points I want to make. First of all, greatness is seldom achieved by poor time managers. So you need to put that on your list of things you need to get better at, okay? And again, we have the video on 805 Academy if you want to watch that. It's about a 45-minute video. But today, 3 points. First of all, you can't have it all, you can't do it all, and you can't be it all. And I say that to everybody. I say that especially to women with kids in the business. You know, we have people on our teams where they have plenty of kids in the business and they're trying to do everything. Some of them are single moms, some of them aren't. But it's hard. It's hard to be it all, have it all, and do it all. But you have to make choices, okay? But you can still be very successful. The next thing is putting margins in your life. Putting margins in your life is one of the first things you learn about time management, because when you do, you all of a sudden start having more successes and fewer failures. And one of the ways you put margins in your life is don't think that if I have to be somewhere at, you know, say 1:30 today, and it's 15 minutes away, I'm leaving at 1:15. Leave at 1 o'clock. Get there 15 minutes early. Who doesn't have work to do on their phone, a call to make, or something to do? And guess what? When you're early, everything is different. When I go to the baseball game, I walk in the park at 5:30, no one's there. I walk right up to the concession stand, I get my hot dog and beer, no one bugs me, I go sit down, it's really easy. And I leave in the 7th inning when no one leaves, so I don't fight anyone in the parking lot. I have no stress in sporting events. Unlike my son, who wants to be there exactly the minute it starts, and he will not get up until most of the people get up. So, but again, just put margins in your life, and if you do, you're going to take a lot of the stress away. And then the last one is this is a little thing that I've done for years now, and you need to become an efficiency expert. So on the 25th of every month, I have a reoccurring event that I have to spend 15 minutes by myself, and my one goal is to do something to improve my life in that 15 minutes. Make a decision that will improve my life. Whether it's how I can do something easier, faster, or better, it's all based on those things. The first question I usually ask myself is, what am I having the most trouble with right now? Or what would be, if I could just take care of one thing right now and get better at it, what would it be? And so if once a month, it's only once a month, it's 12 times a year, but then over 10 years, you know, you're talking about over 100 times, 120 times, that you do that, and all these little things add up to greatness. Greatness is not, you know, one big thing. Greatness is a whole lot of little things. And having that appointment once a month that you go over those things, I have a checklist of what I go over with, but because it's more than just trying to get better, it's all about my relationship with my wife and my kids and my grandkids and other things as well. And I look at all those and I ask myself the question. One of the questions I ask myself on the 25th of every month: what must it be like to be married to me? Okay. Now, by the way, I've never answered that question by saying, "Oh my God, she's the luckiest girl in the world."
But I am.
Yeah. But so in asking that question, I can look at where I need to improve, and that's what it's all about. Improving in every area of your life, little steps at a time. And I never come out of those meetings sad or disappointed. I always come out really happy about them. Yeah.
And you talked about time management and the 24/7. We can't be on call 24/7. But when you start getting things that are compounding, because real estate doesn't happen on a conveyor belt, how do you manage appointments and stuff as they come in?
Okay, so appointments are prioritized by the first appointment. If you make an appointment with me and you are a lease appointment, okay, and that's an appointment, and somebody else calls and says, "I want to look at a $10 million property," you can't do it that time. I've got an appointment. If I had an appointment with my kids, it's an appointment. Now, that's me. I look at that as the integrity of who you are is not that you weigh the appointments and their importance and you might bounce somebody based on that. Now, is there ever a situation like that? Rarely. But for the most part, no. Don't prioritize people in your life. Don't send those messages. If somebody has a time, an appointment with you, I'm there. How many people that know me well here have ever had me not show up or had me cancel an appointment? It just doesn't happen, And the reason is because an appointment's an appointment, and you have priority. Now, people know, my kids learned early on when they wanted to go to the batting cage. They say, "Dad, we want to go to the batting cage this week. Is Tuesday at 4 or Friday at 3 better?" But they knew if we put it down, I was going to be there. Okay, I was going to be there.
Did you ever feel like you lost a client because you already had an appointment, you had to push them off?
I don't think so, but I'd rather lose a client than lose myself. That's just the way I look at it. And I don't say clients come and go. They're a big deal. But if I had a client that I said, I made a commitment to somebody else, I can't make that time, and they said, "Well, you're going to lose this," that's really not. I'm not going to let them compromise who I am because of their pressure.
And as I think back when we were in our busiest days, I don't remember ever losing a client. I don't remember ever losing a client from that, but I do remember people always respecting that we were busy and thought we were worth waiting for, so to speak. When you're too available, like you said, it's almost like you're too anxious almost.
Yeah, no, honestly. So, and again, when you start making appointments, and remember, leave margins in between appointments. So a lot of times when I was with a client, if I was showing a property at say 1 o'clock, my next client was at 4 o'clock, I'd tell the client, "Hey, we have until 3 o'clock today," because I have another appointment I have to get to. Now, I wouldn't tell them my next appointment's at 3. I'd say we have until 3 because I have another appointment. But the idea that, would be like they're thinking I have a 3 o'clock appointment. Well, I'm going to make sure I'm there for that next client on time too. So again, now that's why you need to leave margins too, and that's important. Okay, so the formula for success is under promise and over deliver. Probably the easiest thing to do, and honestly, real estate agents, we're not known for this. We're really not known for this. We are known for over promising and under delivering. That is, unfortunately, what we're thought of. When they take the list of all the professions on there, we finish just above used car dealers and attorneys. Sometimes right with them. Okay. Now, attorneys and used car dealers can be great too, by the way, but some of them aren't. That's the theory. You guys know what people think of those professions. That's what they think of us sometimes. So the first thing we need to do with our clients is to under promise and over deliver. And let me tell you how you do this. This is all in the setup. This is all in the setup. So if a client called me today, okay, if Jake called me today, and Jake's a client of mine, and says, "Hey, listen, I wonder, could you send me some quick comps out of my house right now? I'm trying to get a refi done on this." Well, I know right now that I've got a couple of things I got to do. I could probably get it back by 4 o'clock. So Jake, I'll tell you what, is it okay if I have that by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? I've got a busy day and night, but if I have it by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, is that okay? Probably. Okay. And guess what? I'm going to have it by 5 o'clock that afternoon. Because in whatever I'm going to give them, and people on my team know, if I tell you that I can call you back in 30 minutes, it's 15 minutes usually, always, right? Okay. set yourself up to under-promise and over-deliver, and give yourself some margins to do that. You don't need to over-promise. It's kind of funny. I don't know why so many people like to over-promise on something. Is it kind of like a race to see if you can possibly do it? For me, all I want to do is I want that person to be happy, okay? I want them to be happy. If I'm told by Amazon Prime that I'm going to get a package, okay, on Thursday, and they give it to me on Friday, I'm really unhappy. But if they told me I'm getting it Saturday and I get it on Friday, I'm delighted, right? By the way, Prime does that sometimes. Sometimes you know that they tend to either hit it right on, they're usually right on, but sometimes they're early, right? And so they've set their company up to be that. And Amazon has a model that I think is going to work, you know, so. So again, under promise, over deliver. It's just in the setup. So, okay, so almost done here. 5 quotes that will inspire you for greatness. This is no big deal, but failure is failure. Failure is not failure, but a lesson learned. Don't be afraid to fail, because within the failure becomes the lesson that might catapult you to greatness. So, the other one I like, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. This idea that as long as we just keep doing what we're doing, we're fine, you're not. The world moves up. If you're not getting better, you literally are getting worse. There is no such thing as staying the same. The other thing is the price of success is paid up front. It truly is. I mean, this business is kind of interesting. It's one of the few businesses to where you get your license, okay, first, and your education later. You know, if you're an accountant, you go get your accounting degree, and then you go to work. In this one, you go to work, and then you get your education, right? So that's the way it starts. My favorite saying, I think Angie could tell you, anyone here that knows me well would know this. I've suffered a great many catastrophes in my life, most of which never happened. It's actually in my office and a great big thing. And I can't tell you how many times I do this with agents on our team, but especially new agents, and they will all know this. I had Michelle one time, said she was gonna literally put a tattoo on her arm on that. She loved it so much. But it is, I mean, we suffer these great catastrophes in our mind that most of the time never happen. So you cannot achieve what you do not believe. You gotta believe, guys. This idea that success will come with hard work, I think it's not only hard work, but it's hard work and belief. You gotta believe in yourself. And then in Tipping Point, this is a really good book to read. I talked about it earlier. Malcolm Gladwell states, it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything. And he uses a lot of different examples back to Bill Gates and different people, but that's the truth of it. So if you're in the first year of real estate, that's 5 years of 40 hours, at just 40 hours to become good at something. Whether it's a cello or real estate or the computer or software, it takes 10,000 hours. That's the threshold to becoming good at something. So probably need to understand that. So, and then I kind of just end with this. How much you sell is not who you are. You know, one of the things that when we started Regency we wanted to do is we don't publish any numbers of how much people do, even between the shareholders. You know, we don't publish. Now you can go online if you want to find out how much somebody sells, and you can do that. But we don't have a list every year. We don't have awards every year. There's none of that. Most of the people that come to Regency, they've already been accomplished. They've gone through those awards. They don't need those anymore. But the whole premise was based on that who you are at Regency is not how much you sell. Who you are is who you are. And so sometimes as we're moving up the ladder in real estate, and I share this in my own experience too, that you need to stay grounded. When we start selling a lot of real estate, when we start becoming very successful, and we do that, do everything you can to keep the humility. It might be hard, but you need to do that. The whole idea in life is not to, sell everything you can. I mean, my goal is to lessen the gap between who I am and who God wants me to be each and every day, not sell one more home. Not that being rich is a sin, it's not. Being poor is not a sin. Neither one is a sin. But stay who you are, no matter how successful you become. And it's one of the things when I look around this room and other people in this company that I'm really proud of. People that have really hit the pinnacle of their profession, and they do it with a tremendous amount of humility. And so, again, when you get to that point, then all I can say is keep the humility. So, questions on anything?
Or sharing, anybody have something to
Anyone, yeah,
add?
anyone want to share on anything? I lost my voice today. I never sweat, I'm sweating. I'm sure I have a temperature. But thanks for putting up with me, guys.
Thank you.
No. Oh, by the way.
Is that your head?
So next month is going to be a kind of a fun one. We're going to talk about FICO scoring, how it works and everything else. But then I'm going to go off in this other area. This other area is going to be, I'm actually doing this for me, not for you guys. You guys just, if you want to come, you can. But I'm going to talk about how the information that we share on several different areas, how it's used in our life for us, against us, and for other companies and things. You have no idea. I've done a good research on this now. It's been something I've been interested in for a few years. I'll tell you a story that kind of got me interested in it. Years ago, in probably like 1999, I was at a high school event with my son Corey, a football event, and one of the guys came up to me that was one of the other fathers that I'd never met before, or maybe just casually knew who he was. And he came up and told me that what his company did. And he went on to tell me in the presence of Angie more about Angie and I than anyone in that whole room knew about. And it wasn't bad stuff. I mean, maybe he just picked the good stuff to share with us. And I looked at that and I said, this is the most unbelievable. He goes, this is what's being done today. This is just the start of it. That's what our company does. And I think he was trying to almost be like a 20-second commercial to how that information can be used. And if you ever want that, let me know, because that's what we do. But as I've done this deep dive and I've unpacked some of this, wait till you see all the things that companies use and what they can tell about you and the profiles they put together about you. They might know you better than you know you. So it's absolutely amazing. So anyway, that's it. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks.